So there's some episodes of Dark Side of the Ring that are not quite as comical as the New Jack episode. I just want to let you know, man.
Yep, I agree. I would actually say that the entire premise of the show is to be not funny and be very serious. Did you watch the New Jack one, by the way?
I have not seen it yet. I've seen pieces, not the full sode.
Have you done any cocaine or gotten any fights in the last week?
Well, no, but that's because I haven't watched the whole thing. I've got to
Okay.
assume the inspiration will strike.
It's motivational. Yeah, it's like a motivational Monday thing.
But I've noticed that Benoit is on there, and not to get real heavy into his story, but
Mhm.
you have a hard time laughing at that guy or his situation, but not all CTE or concussions or things like that lead to murderous rampages, do they?
No, they absolutely don't. But it's a really tricky thing for me to discuss, even because it's obviously super heavy in a lot of ways. But one of the big scary ways is that in the second part of his episode, they really dive deep into his brain injuries and concussions and his CTE and all of that. And I think I might have even mentioned it last week where, I watched something like that thinking I've been professional wrestling for 15 years. I know I have some brain damage going on. I know I've gotten a bunch of bad concussions. I can't form sentences quite as easily or speak as eloquently. It's like when you lose vocab words sometimes. You're like, oh no, I know the exact word I'm supposed to say right here, but I can't think of it. Stuff like that happens pretty often anymore. So, like, as a professional wrestler watching that episode, it definitely impacted me a lot differently than it would impact most people.
I think that if you eat more sushi, that will remedy your current situation. And I'm basing that solely off of Deep Blue Sea.
Are you serious?
Oh yeah, I mean that's why they were down in the sea lab harvesting shark DNA. They thought it would cure Alzheimer's.
What? Are you serious? I haven't seen Deep Blue Sea.
Dude, Samuel L. Jackson and LL Cool J are in that movie.
I know it for only a few of the sound bites, but I've never seen the movie.
Maybe add that thing to your list. But I bring up the Benoit thing solely because I'm confident that there's got to be a lighter side to injuries. Like when you see even if it's a small child slip and fall on the ice, you feel real terrible because it's a little kid, but
Oh,
also it's hilarious.
Hilarious. I love seeing kids fall, Pete. A friend of mine actually linked me to an Instagram, kids getting hurt a while back. And I looked at a few of the things. Dude, it was great. And I'm not a big fan of memes. I actually hate memes and stuff. But that type of page made me chuckle.
You can't help but laugh. People getting injured is just funny. I
Yeah.
mean, not always. There's obviously exceptions. We're not heartless.
Yeah, so yeah, actually, kids getting hurt and falling down. That I'm going to tell a story that incriminates me. But a couple of years back when I was working at this gym, and granted, the important part of this story is the entire working area of the gym in this room was slightly padded. So it wasn't a solid floor by any means. It was slightly padded so people could do like all these different weight exercises and cardio things, no big deal. Every now and then a member would bring in their kid, and normally the kids were pretty well behaved, but they had to pretty much just sit in a chair up front and do nothing. Or there was a little like room in the back near the bathroom where they could just stay and do nothing. But very, very rarely a member would just let their kid run all around the gym like a little demon, annoying everybody and distracting everybody and kind of just being a potential liability, Pete. So I would give the parent the opportunity to try and control their child, and I would hope that they would. 9 times out of 10, they did. But there was one occasion where the kid was running around like a bat out of hell for probably 12 minutes or something like that, and there was no end in sight. Luckily, there were not a bunch of other people in the gym at the time. But have you ever been in a position where you really want to tell someone else's kid to stop doing something, or tell them to tell their kid, but you know you can't?
Absolutely.
Okay, because it could cause too much issue. Well, this little
Yeah,
kid,
you don't want the drama, but you want the little kid to stop being an a-hole.
yeah, exactly. But it's like it's not my kid, so I can't yell at him. So he was just like running around like a little speed demon, right? And he wasn't paying any attention, and his stride was awful because kids don't know how to run real well. And the parent was looking away, and in my head, I thought, if this kid was walking, he was running around me too, very, very close. So at one point, he walked out. I put my foot out about another 2 inches, just barely tapped his foot as he was running by, and he just ate it on the floor. But he didn't even know that it was me that tripped him. So he thought he just stumbled and smashed into the floor and popped up. And he didn't scream or anything like that. I think he acted like he felt humiliated, which was funny because it was a little kid that you would think would start screaming because he's probably 6 or something like that, maybe. I'm pretty bad at estimating kids' ages. But boom, he crashed and burned. The parent turned around and was just like, "That's what you get. I told you to stop running." And I chuckled and I was super happy. And I was really glad the kid didn't say something like I tripped him. Of course, I was just going to say he didn't, obviously. And I feel like they would have probably been on my side.
Yeah, who are they going to believe? Some dumb kid?
Yeah, exactly. I would have been like, "Hey, check the security cameras," which we didn't have.
Shoot.
But
I don't think you could prove it in court, sir. How do you want to handle this?
Yeah, you totally couldn't. Why would I trip your stupid kid? Like, the floor was like a little off anyway. So a lot of the people working out, at some point, there's like one or two parts of the floor you might hit that would make you stumble anyway. So it was pretty common for adults to almost stumble in one section of the floor, and that's totally where we were. So yeah, they would just assume that I was correct.
I'm glad I could get you to admit on the internet that you trip babies. Good for you, dog.
Yeah, man, I did that a few years back. So if they want to press charges or something, the kids, I was going to say the R word, but he's probably fine.
I was not so much hoping that we would discuss messing with children.
Yeah.
But surely you've taken a blow and it's resulted in an injury that's been pretty comical.
Yep. Yeah. So I've taken a lot of them. So I was trying to think of some of the funnier ones, right? So
well, yes, because the depressing ones should not be shared. Save that for a different podcast.
Yeah, save that for my documentary. I was trying to think of just like a few of the little ones. So like a few of the little ones, the first time I ever got actually decently injured was 2009, I believe, and I hyperextended both my knees and I destroyed the meniscus in my right knee. And it was on one of the dumbest moves ever, which is called a double axe handle. Do you know what that is?
I do not.
Okay. So a double axe handle, legitimately, you usually do it off the second rope or the top rope, where you just climb up, you put both your hands together, you lock your hands, raise them over your head, jump off, and then just like double sledge the dude with your hands. It's called a double axe handle.
It's called Kofi Kingston's finishing maneuver, sir.
Wait a second. He uses a kick. What are you talking about?
Oh, well, never mind then. When I searched it, Kofi is apparently the ambassador of the double axe handle.
Oh,
he was the first picture.
His is a lot cooler. Yeah, all of his stuff looks cool and flashy, but it's not a flashy maneuver. That's the important thing here. That happened in a matchup in Michigan, and it only happened because the guy I was jumping onto to hit was standing too far away. So I had to try and jump from the top rope 3/4 of the way across the ring just to hit him. So in doing so, like I had shot my legs out further than normal. So when I landed, I didn't land with my knees slightly bent and ready for the buckling under me. So I landed with them kind of straight and bent them back the wrong way and hyperextended them as I double axe handled this dude. And I felt like a rip immediately. But I kept on with the match because in wrestling, you keep going. It's not a big deal, no matter what it is. So boom, I knew I hurt my knees and finished the match or whatever. And the match was fine. Then, we get in the car to go home, and my buddy AJ Tyson Judge was with me on this trip. And wait, did I tell this? Did I tell the story about the travel in Fort Wayne?
The travel in or traveling?
The travel in.
No, I know nothing about the travel in.
Okay, so I have a story at some point I will tell about the seedy motel and the strip club with AJ after a show, but that's a story for another day. So, boom, we go up, do the show, we get in the car to drive home. About 2 hours into the drive home, we have to stop and get gas. He calls me or whatever. I'm like, hey, we got to get gas. So we pull over to get gas. I open my door. I go to step out of the car, and he's right behind me at the pump behind me. So I step out and just collapse and just eat it on the concrete. And he gets out of the car, and he thought I was just messing with him. He's like, hey, man, what the hell are you doing? I was like, I can't stand up. He just laughs, and he's like,
see, it's funny.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, right. I'm like, nah, for real, man. I can't stand up. There's something wrong with my knees. And he's like, what are you talking about, man? I was like, yeah, man, in the match, I I did something. And he's like, yeah, but you finished the match and you walked around after the show. I was like, yep. Didn't even think twice about it. So when the adrenaline wore off, it just turns out I couldn't use my knees anymore.
Didn't that affect your full-time job?
Oh, yeah, nice, nice. Yeah, I had to invest in better pads. Yeah, so that was pretty funny. Now, so for like the next week or week and a half, I had a little bit of trouble moving around, but I could walk. It really hurt, and I could kind of feel a grinding in my right knee. Eventually, I went and got it checked out, and they're like, "Yeah, you hyperextended both knees, shattered one meniscus, probably minimally tore the other one." And they're like, "Yeah, you just kind of live with it. You just don't have a meniscus now. It's kind of fine. It's gonna grind." And they told me, they're like, "Hey, man, if you just pretty much increase all the leg exercises you do, increase your leg muscles, it'll pull pressure away from the knees." For the most part, they're right. So when I started doing the thousands and thousands of squats, hoping to get to Japan 7 years later, it actually took a lot of the pressure off of my knees. So if you have knee problems, squat with good form, not bad form, because bad form will just make it a lot worse. So that was me tearing my meniscus.
I think what's funny, that bit of medical advice, I also know someone else who got the same advice.
Really?
They tore cartilage out of this person's knee and said, "Yeah, there's nothing we could do for you. That cartilage is just gone. So I don't know, start looking at squats or something. Build up the area above the knee to take that pressure off."
Oh, that's great to hear. I'm glad to know I just didn't have bad doctors.
Right? Wouldn't it be worse if I said, "No"? So the doctor said, "Man, absolutely don't do squats ever again. You're just going to blow out your knees."
Yeah. And see, since it worked for me, this is advice I've given to other people too. Is like, oh, yeah, you got a little bit of a knee problem, like a meniscus tear or whatever. Like, yeah, man, just do more squats, but with good form.
It is so evident to everyone else when you squat like shit. The people who do it don't seem to know it, but everyone else knows that your form is shit. Same thing with deadlifts. Have somebody critique your form. Don't be an idiot.
Dude, yeah, I don't. I see people do bad form deadlifts and squats all the time. And in my head, I'm thinking that has to really hurt you in some way, and you have to know, right?
I don't know if they do know. The same people who get swinging when they do curls and they're like, "You know what, man? Good for you. You do look like you have big biceps and you're moving a ton of weight, except one day you're going to slip a disc and you
Yeah,
probably won't think you're doing anything wrong until you just slip that disc."
yeah, exactly. But I guess that's how it works. Whatever.
And, and then Jake will be there tripping kids to laugh at you and your slipped disc.
Yeah, see, it's okay that I tripped a kid though, because he's so young. I'm pretty sure all his bones are still forming and stuff. Like it couldn't hurt him. Kids are made to be thrown around and damaged a little bit. But by the time you get into your 20s, you better not do it.
And don't go full British nanny. We're talking about a little bit of tumbling, but not heavy shakes.
Exactly. Oh, which also, by the way, I may or may not have an actual job, and the one of the women I work with now said she dislocated her 1 year old's arm last night. Like he
Oh
ran by
no.
and she grabbed him to pick him up by the arms, which apparently she always gets on her husband about, and dislocated his elbow rather, and boom, dislocates the little dude's elbow. How crazy!
I mean, I guess that makes sense, but I don't know if you think about it at the time. But yeah, everything is soft and not fully formed. If you pull a little too hard, it's just gonna dislocate.
I always thought it was weird when I would see people pick up their kids by their arms, like their wrists and hands. I was like, that can be good because I have done so many pull-ups, and I've done some with like a little bit of a swing before. And unfortunately, when I was doing CrossFit for a hot minute, they always encouraged kipping pull-ups, which means huge swing.
The most terrible way to do a pull up.
Yeah, it's garbage. And I would even told them, and this listen, like the CrossFit people there were in ridiculous shape. The coach was a great coach, genius dude. And I told him, I was like, that is not good for your shoulder girdle. Like your shoulder socket is not supposed to have that kind of pressure under it. At the time I weighed like 220. I was like, me swinging my 220 pounds like repeatedly while my arms are up on that bar over my head is not good for me. It's not good for my anatomy, bro. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's not like he wanted to disagree, but he didn't agree.
Yeah, and I get that you put up killer numbers. If you could do 10 honest to God pull ups, you could probably do 20, 25 kipping pull ups. And that's
Yeah,
a better number, but you're just going to hurt yourself.
absolutely. And they would have they want people to do kipping muscle ups too. And I kind of I would argue now, I'll argue to my death, where like I can do 10 strict form muscle ups, non kipping. So like good extension and controlled the whole way through. And that has to be 25 times better for my body than me doing 30 kipping muscle ups. Like it just has to be good for my anatomy that I'm slow and controlled and strict form on them.
Yeah, let's be honest. Maybe you throw your shoulder out if you're trying to impress a nice looking gym companion. But other than that, every all
Oh,
men will hurt themselves to impress someone, but I'm not going to do it just as my daily workout routine.
no stray dude's ever done muscle ups in a gym that there aren't girls in. Like, that's why
Hell no.
that's why the move exists. Am I right?
Oh, absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
how about that? Have you ever tried to impress? I guess it doesn't have to be a member of the opposite sex, since every time you take the ring, it's pretty much a job audition.
Mhm.
But have you ever tried to impress someone and just injured the crap out of yourself as a result?
In the ring?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so this is good because I was going to say I also injured my shoulder once, which made me much more cognizant of shoulder injuries, stuff caused by my bullshit like kipping pull-ups. Yeah, I tore my labrum in my right shoulder in 2016. So remember that month of torture I told you about the first time I got to go to Japan? So I got to go to Japan for a month, and they just straight tortured me for a month to test me. So there was another American kid there named Alex, and Alex is a smaller dude, probably like $160, $170, and he not like the greatest physique in the world or anything like that, but he was an athlete. So we maybe like 2 weeks in or something like that, they gave us a pre-show match on a very small show out in the middle of the country in front of like 200 people. They told us 2 or 3 days ahead of time that we would have this match, so they let us practice a match in the dojo as much as we wanted before the time we went. So of course we planned this amazing match with all these big moves and cool stuff, and then we went out there and we did it all on the show, and it sucked. Like everyone hated it. The crowd didn't like it. None of the wrestlers liked it.
Was it the performance and execution that wasn't great, or what was the problem with the actual match?
We kind of just did cool moves to do cool moves, and it didn't look like a competition, and it didn't look real like brutal or like hard hitting, I guess. Then that's what they want over there, and that's legitimately the only style of wrestling I like to watch anyway. But yeah, we just we got in our own heads, man, and we tried to do way, way, way too many moves and stuff in like 5 minutes. So everyone hated it. It did not bode well for us, you know. And they'd already been 2 weeks into torturing us, and they had another 2 weeks to go. So I was like, ah, shoot, I hope we didn't blow it. But they let us know like that they didn't like it, but they didn't tell us directly. They just kind of were like, hey, how was it? They're just kind of like, I don't know. I was like, oh no, that means bad.
That's the worst thing they can say to you.
Yeah, exactly. In America, a veteran would pull you to the side and just tell you it was awful and to get better, and you'd be like, okay. There, they don't. But I knew that's worse. It's like, I'm disappointed in you, not angry. I was like, oh no, this isn't good. So 2 or 3 days later, they told us, hey, you two match right now. And this is weird because at training, normally there would be 8 people, 10 people all training together as a team. But this day, it probably would have been a Tuesday, we all were at training, and there were like 20, 22 people there, including some of the veterans and like big name guys and even office people and stuff. So it was very intimidating. I was like, man, why are all these guys training today? That's weird. Because normally, after you have been in the business so long and are a 20-year veteran, those dudes don't train with us anymore. They just kind of train on their own. So I was like, this is weird. They told us, they're like, hey, your match Saturday, Chiba, not good. They're like, next, right now, you guys, a 5 minute match. And I was like, okay. And they're like, right now. So we jumped in the ring, and they made us have a 5 minute match just completely off the cuff, which is also the way I like to do it. And I could tell that Ryan was scared as hell. And I was a little nervous. This was my chance to like save my ass. We get in there and we have this match, and I just lead the whole thing. And I didn't even have a chance to tell Ryan or Alex, like, I didn't even have a chance to tell him, hey man, just listen to me, it'll be okay. So we get in there, boom, and we start going, and we're making it real, and we're going hard. I'm telling him what to do. I'm leading him the whole way. Also, it's super important. Oh man, this is breaking the fourth wall. I shouldn't do this.
Uh oh.
Yeah.
Uh oh.
But it's super important in what we do. if you are told a time, like you have a 5-minute match, what that means is you better have an exactly 5-minute match, or it should be a little bit under, but it can never be over. So if your match is 5 minutes and 1 second and it's at a really good company, they might never use you again. That might get you in a lot of trouble. They would much rather you have a 4 minute and 45 second match, right? That being said, they want you in your head to already know what exactly 5 minutes is and make that match exactly 5 minutes. That's a very hard skill to develop, Pete. Believe it's very hard to keep track of time when you're in the match because everything feels like it's 10 times longer.
I think everyone who wants to prove themselves or people who aren't really established, they always go longer, and I think they run out of steam.
Yeah.
2/3 of the way through the match. So it's like, guys, you should have maybe wrapped this up 3 or 4 minutes ago. Like, take it home. Come on.
Absolutely. They lose steam and their stuff starts not looking good and they look tired because most of the dudes are tired. And to do everything correctly, it's tiring, man. It's exhausting. You have to be really, really good, and most people just aren't that good. We're in here and we're having this match, right? And we're trying to tell a story. We got 5 minutes. I'm the bad guy, he's the good guy. I'm making him look good, then I'm getting real dirty and villainous. And then I'm making sure he gets one or two cool things in because I knew a couple of the things he did. So we're rocking and rolling. We're going and going. And I think that somebody yelled out 30 seconds. So I'm like, okay, perfect. And that's about what I thought we were at anyway. So we're going and going and going. We're doing this really cool last set sequence. We're going back and forth. Da 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 da. I pick him up, hold him straight up in the air for a suplex, and then really quickly, I tell him real fast, like small package, and I grab him. I pull his legs down and swing him in to what a small package, which means like he slips kind of in. He grabs my head and then he grabs my leg and just kind of like rolls me into a ball. So boom, he rolls me into a ball for the pin. 1, 2, 3, boom. We break and we kind of both just like turn to like the audience. We turn to the one or two main guys in charge, and I look right at him, kind of like, what do you guys think? Like moment of truth. I look at the main dude is this dude named Kai, and the look on his face is the best reaction I've ever had to a match of mine. It was the most rewarding reaction I've ever had to a match of mine, where like he just like opened his mouth like just that big like circle, like, oh, and his eyes opened up real wide. He's like, oh, awesome. And I was just like, yes, yes, yeah. Like I'm inside, I'm just like, I'm going nuts. I'm thrilled. I'm just trying to act like it's not a big deal. And then like everyone around kind of like nods and smiles and like everyone kind of politely claps. And then like they talk, they're speaking in Japanese for a second. We can't understand it. And then one of the dudes had the timer in his hand and he goes, 4 minutes, 59 seconds. Another like everybody, ooh, nice. That was our match we had. I'm coming back to the injury in a minute.
So that's the best reaction you've had to a 5-minute performance?
Oh, absolutely, sir. Well, normally I always just go long, and like you said, it lags in the middle and it gets really boring, and there's not like a good finish or anything. I'm just trying to show off, and it doesn't work.
Right.
That's normally how my performances go. So, I mean, not in the ring. In the ring, I know what I'm doing, but in other things.
That's outside the ring. It's anybody's guess. I get it.
Yeah, exactly. Read between the lines. Everyone's like, oh, awesome. Then I go up to another one of the guys named Sakamoto. We ended up becoming friends later. He was like, that match, very, very good. I'm like, oh, thank you. He's like, Saturday match. Or no. He said, Chiba match. Shit. He was like, that match, very, very good. And I'm like, oh, thank you. He's like, Chiba though, shit. Much shit. And I was like, all right, well, at least he's being honest with me now. But it's like
right.
they wouldn't have told me that if they didn't like me a little more as a result of that match. And I think they knew that I was the leader, like I was calling the match. So to get to the injury, I got injured in that match about halfway through. So we're wrestling, like I said, in Japan. They hit real hard. They hit real heavy. Believability and intensity are key. So you're killing each other with your maneuvers. And you're supposed to, which I like. It's good. So in the middle of the match, I'm beating up Alex, and at some point I said something like, punch me a few times and hit the ropes. I don't know. Anyway, he goes to hit the ropes, And as he's coming off, I wind up a clothesline and I throw it like a 90-mile-an-hour fastball. And dude, I smoked him. I think I could have ran my arm into like a pillar, like a concrete pillar. I could have been throwing that clothesline at the Athenaeum or like some classical architecture, and I swear to God, I could have broken it in half. That's how ridiculously stiff this clothesline was.
I'm glad you went with a historical structure as opposed to, Uncle Tim's trailer, the overhang there on the front. I just could have thrown my arm right through that 2x4 right there.
Yeah, exactly. I could have, yeah, dude, I could have like destroyed some 3,000-year-old piece of architecture made of straight up concrete with this Indiana limestone sucker. Boom. I smoke Alex with this clothesline. It sounded like a gunshot as I ripped through his chest. Also, as I ripped through his chest, in my head, the sound of that explosion is muffled by the tear of my god labrum. So, like, I hit him with that clothesline and just hear, shh, but only I can hear that because it was muffled with the sound of like fireworks, like boom. And then that was another moment where after I hit him, every single Japanese guy, oh, I'm like, yep. So I hit him, boom. I feel the rip on the inside of my arm, dude. It felt like a lightning bolt shot down my arm and out through my fingers because my arm just went dead, just completely gone. Boom, I level him, got the reaction from the audience. And then, like, as I'm on the ground, I'm like, oh God, what did I do? Obviously, I act like it's not hurt. I wrestled 2 more minutes or whatever, finished the match, and then they love it. And I'm like, okay, great. And I don't think we actually even had to do way too much more training that day. It must have just been squats or lower body because I remember I didn't have to do any upper body afterward, maybe a few push-ups. So boom, I tore my labrum wrestling that match, just trying to impress the Japanese guys. Then I got to stay there another 2 weeks. I think we had 10 more training days, and I got tortured for another 10 days. And one of the things they implemented really hard were muscle ups, Pete. So another one of the things I was talking about earlier, muscle ups are where you're hanging from a bar, you pull your body up into a pull up, but then you keep going to pull the bar to your waist, and then you extend your arms so your body is above the bar, which is very, very hard to do. It takes a long time. In a wrestling ring, you can also do muscle ups. Now, you just have them with a partner where you put your hands on the top rope, you're hanging from the top rope, and someone's holding your feet. So your body's completely arched. You pull your body up, and then they help your ankles along a little bit, and then you can push your butt all the way up to the sky, and then they raise your feet even with your face on the top turnbuckle. It's a little awkward to describe. If I had access to a ring, I would film it and put it on the Instagram, but they had us doing muscle ups. Now, I had a torn shoulder. I couldn't tell anyone because I didn't want to tell anyone I was hurt because they might just think I'm a wuss. But I'm doing that. I'm doing hundreds and hundreds of Hindu push-ups. It's getting to the point where even swinging my arms on the 1,000 Hindu squats are killing me. But I sucked it up, man. And, I finished the next 2 weeks. And then, it turns out they loved me, and I went back and had a awesome career over there. A couple of years later, one of the other times I tried to throw just a devastating clothesline. I hit the dude and I re-aggravated it. It wasn't a rip or anything, but it was just one of those, like, a shock. And I was like, oh man, I can't believe that I only get hurt doing clotheslines now.
Do you find you perform better with a torn labrum?
I don't think it was the torn labrum. I think it was just the intense pressure and adrenaline.
I don't know. I'm going to be a proponent of you just tearing your labrum. If you want the best out of Jake Oman, make sure he throws a clothesline until you hear it tear. Then you know.
Man, so yeah, I've given a lot of people advice. I actually went and I did physical therapy to rehabilitate this injury because it started becoming such an issue in the gym, because just having kind of like a dead arm every now and then, like every few months I would re-aggravate it and it would just be dead for like 3 weeks. I couldn't do anything. So eventually I started cramping my style. I actually sucked it up and went to physical therapy when I got decent health insurance, which was a good investment.
Yes, as insurance tends to be.
Yeah, as I get older and I realize that's important, man. If I'd only had health insurance for a few of those years where I probably could have used it. Anyway, so that's me getting hurt, trying to impress people. Yeah, trying to impress the Japanese. Never a girl. There are no girls there.
Now we're just going back to wrestling being a slightly homoerotic sport.
Yeah. So actually, I was on Instagram a day or two ago. This female wrestler I know who's pretty young had put up a picture on her story about a Japanese female wrestler saying, "Oh, I just found out about this girl and she's my new hero. I love her." So I actually sent her a message like, "Oh, hey, fun fact. She actually used to train at our dojo sometimes. I know her pretty well." And like in Japanese professional wrestling dojos, normally it is 100% men all the time and girls are not allowed. But this was one of the two exceptions that my company has made in like that 7 years or whatever, that where they actually allowed a female to train, I guess, because they saw potential in her or something like that. But I even kind of felt bad, like, man, this is a really young, cute girl who weighs like 100 pounds maybe, and she is gonna get like brutalized. And dude, she did. They murdered her too, just like she was a 200-pound 18-year-old Japanese boy. And but yeah, she stood up to it and took it. She wasn't there watching me though. Like I wasn't trying to impress her. I was trying to impress the 42-year-old booker of the show who's 5'9" and 260 solid pounds with a mohawk. That's the guy I wanted to impress.
Well, and look where it got you with Sheamus. You now fear no man.
Oh man, that's true. I guess a few different moments of my life have been trying to impress really large men with mohawks. Now that you point that out.
Yeah, you have a type. I mean, we all know it. It's fine. There's no shame in admitting that.
Large mohawked men. Yeah, I think people have thought at some point that Russ and I are a little, that way. But he's another.
Whoa, you're not?
Man. We're not, man. Straight up. Huh.
Are you sure?
Irony. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, like I think I'm pretty straight, man. But I guess I could see how people mistake that intimate and close of a friendship for being intimate. But he fits my type. He fits my type, tattooed, jacked, and mohawk.
Well, I forget. Who's got your belt right now?
Oh, Russ is the champion. Yeah, Russ is the White River Wrestling heavyweight champion at White River Wrestling.
Now it's all coming together.
Yep. You're right, man. I guess I'm in love with Russ.
It's better that you find out now that you can tell him. And I mean, you might ruin a marriage, but it's just one of those things.
Nah, it won't be this story that runs in it. Yeah, I guess I went on pretty long with that one, but I do have some other injury stories I can tell stories for another day, Pete.
Well, yeah, I mean, I suppose in keeping with our quarantine format of about 40 minutes, we are up against that wall.
Yeah,
but that's some swell foreshadowing right there.
Yeah, stories for another day. I didn't even get into my concussions, man. My actual bread and butter of this story are the concussion stories.
Yeah, that was the purpose for the Benoit lead-in. Now you just make me look like a tool.
Yeah, well, see, now it gives people time to watch the 2-part Chris Benoit Dark Side of the Ring documentaries.
Spoiler alert, though, Jake's stories don't involve murder.
No, but it involves almost murder. I've almost been killed several times, and I almost killed one dude one time.
Oh, well, nice recovery. Now we are back to cliffhanger.
Yeah, exactly. See, stories for another day. And by another day, I mean next week I'll actually tell those stories, unlike that Fort Wayne strip club motel story, which I probably won't ever tell on the podcast. Or I have a story that my buddy Matt wants me to tell about this girl that used to work at our gym. I won't tell that story on the podcast either. But I will tell my concussion stories.
And now you people who interact with the show know what to message Jake about.
Yeah, if you want to hear some not safe for work stories, I need people to let me know. Otherwise, those won't get put online.
Might have to make some Patreon exclusive content and just don't tell your folks about it.
Oh my goodness. That is the perfect excuse for me to get a Patreon started. There's some not safe for work stories. None of them paint me in a bad light because I'm a great guy. But they're stories about friends and that become porn stars and stuff. You know.
Oh yeah, you hang out with a lot of people who make questionable decisions.
Yeah, for sure. So follow us at OffTheCliffPod. Follow Peter. He is at Multimedia Hustle, not Muscle yet. And I am at Jake Oman 2012. And I want to appreciate you for sticking with us in this quarantine, slightly lower quality state that we are all in.